All right, welcome back. Well, first things first, right? I hope you all caught Tom Jones's stream earlier today. It pains me to admit that Tom is a lot better at this than I am, so you should all be watching Tom instead of me. That might be because Tom does these things sober. Who knows? On that topic, and I'm going to inflict something truly horrific on you now. Slightly more me. This is today's beer. Who wants to guess what this is? It's dark, and I've had it for a while. Is this? Cameras are difficult. This is difficult. Oh, there we go. So this is a Westvleteren 12, and it is honestly a little bit older than it should have been. I should have been drinking this a long time ago. Let's go back to looking at a terminal because that's so much nicer. Oh, yes. Where were we? Yes. The reason for this beer is because I'm celebrating something, and I'm not quite telling you yet what it is, but you'll figure it out soon enough. I think we're going to start today with a couple of MFCs. We can update our tree, and we might as well see if we can merge these things back to 11 as well. So update, and subversion is always so very slow. Anyway, what are we going to start with? Well, why not this one? Well, I say this one. You can't actually tell, can you? But if we move this, there we go. If we move this, we got a tiny little contribution. Well, this was part of a larger contribution, but this is a small little patch that removes some unused variable. S is not actually used anywhere there, so committed this earlier, and this is a trivial bit of cleanup that we might as well merge back. So SVM merge, do this one. And then we might as well SVM merge it to 11 as well. There we go. This is our diff. Should be our diff. There we go. Let's do a really quick sanity check. If this compiles, this change is good because that's an unused variable. If it got used, it wouldn't compile. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. We get a merge conflict in 11. So let's take a look at that. And yes, see this, we can't merge this back to 11. Okay, fine. Oh, well, Renee has something to celebrate as well. Celebrate or attempt to forget. I don't know how you feel about birthdays, Renee, but congratulations. Well done on surviving. Here's to your good health, sir. And I must confess that I didn't know it was your birthday, but congratulations. When's the party and are we all invited? Unfortunately, I don't think we'll have a birthday party for you, or not one where we all turn up and drink beer. So this might be the closest thing to it. Right, so we can commit this. Okay. Yeah, so these empty things get removed by the commit hooks, but I might not actually trust them. There we go. So this is a trivial little merge, but we might as well get it out of the way. That's one. I have two more. Let me check off this one in my commit list. Well, let's do the other one first. So there's another useful one from, also contributed by Nick Rogers from our VNET. Actually, these were all the same commits, or they were all from one differential review, and I teased them apart because I am a hacker of limited brain, and it's much easier to review and understand things when they only change one thing at a time. And there we go. Nick was trying to improve a particular bit of performance for our VNET's use case. And okay, might as well do this as well. Okay, so this one I'm happy with. Let's see if we can merge this back to 11. That's probably going to merge conflict as well, which just makes my life easier. It just means I don't have to do... Oh, okay. This one does merge. Okay, let's take a quick look to see if this one matters. 1343, 1343. That was a wrong line number. No? Oh, yeah, okay. 1343. Gold 4, gold 6, 1343, gold 4, gold 6. Okay, so we IFA load, and the reason we need to do this earlier is because in current and in 12 at least, it allocates group structures. It essentially creates a cache of what groups exist here, but I don't actually think that it turned out to matter here. That split your editor thing works better if you've got it in full screen. Okay, so the cache of that information really only matters in 12, so we're not actually going to commit this to 11 either. It doesn't make sense there. It does make sense, I believe. Well, might as well go check here as well. Does this particular change make sense? 1436. 1436. Does this particular change make sense here? So do we... I think we might, or we might not. Do we use anything? Okay, so we do not. It actually doesn't. This one does not make sense to MFC. Okay, so we're... Okay, well, there's another one that we're not going to bother to merge. So I had tagged it in the commit message as MFC after 1 week, but MFC tags in the commit message are suggestions more than obligations. So we've looked at it and we've decided that we're not going to do it. La la. And then one more, and I think this one is more likely to be relevant. This fixes a panic that syscaller, so Google's fuzzing thing, discovered. And it fixes it, and we might as well merge that back to 11 and probably 12 as well. So what does it say? Oh yes, it's the dyn din dynamic dyn. How would you pronounce this variable? Okay. So what we're doing here is what Git calls a cherry pick, and SVN calls a merge because it's a merge of a single commit. So we're taking the changes that we did in R360098 and applying that on stable 12. There we go. So this is an additional RU null check, because if you're not null, we decide that your request is bad and that we don't want to do it. So 2643. So we get this, and then we eventually PFI DIN adder setup, and I probably don't have, yeah, that was to be expected. Okay, run cscope. That all looks sensible enough, so we should be able to commit here. Well, as soon as we finish up checking it in 12, but in the meantime, I can probably go and copy paste this. Just these bits. Copy paste these into the commit message. While we're waiting for this to run, there we go. We can delete this because, we don't trust scripts to work correctly. There we go. And that was this particular revision, so that's one commit message already. We can open this, cscope, add cscope.out, and that works. There we go. And this key asserts that the DIN variable is null, so we do need to actually check for it. When we get user requests. Amusingly, this particular bug only triggered when you had invariant sets, which you don't have set in regular production builds. So this is kind of it's a bug, but it doesn't matter. But, we fix the bugs that don't matter, or that we think don't matter anyway. And there we have our commit message, which we can read from tmp cmt. There we go. Saves us having to copy paste the whole thing again a second time. There we go. Commit. And if I fondle my so René points out that the commit script works correctly for ports. I'm sure it does. It does actually work correctly for source as well. It's just paranoia. There's no good reason to delete them. The commit script is reliable. It does what it's supposed to do. I just end up not trusting it for some reason. Okay, while we're committing things, I seem to remember that I had a couple of open reviews, so let's see if we can find some of them. My active differentials ready for review. Did we not? There we go. So we've got 3 commits or 3 changes that are open for commit. So we've got one more improve input validation. There we go. And that was a good reason. Yeah. So this is another case of syscaller finding one particular flow in which bad things happen. I don't actually think this was exploitable, but we should fix it anyway. So let's grab the raw diff. And this one is a first commit, so this is going into master. And we want this tree to be up to date before we commit things. And then we want to fetch the commits. And then we want to patch. There we go. And that succeeded with minor offset, so I'm pretty sure that this change is good. Yep, that looks sane. So this we can commit. Can't remember, did we fix it? No, this is not one we fixed last week. So pf improve input validation. What happens here? If we pass an anchor name which doesn't exist, PFR table count returns -1, and then we try to allocate -1 times something or other, and it goes ahead and breaks. So this was reviewed by Melifaro, and there is a differential revision associated with this. And we want to MFC this after 1 week. Not obtained from anywhere, not security, not sponsor, not anything, and there we go. And there's another change out of our hair. And now, those of you who were paying attention might have spotted the one that I'm celebrating. Yeah, not this one. Oh, wow. This is additional tests. Oh, wow, that's amusing. I've never seen Fabricator do that before. Just la la la. This is a test for a recursive locking issue if we set net.link.bridge.inherit_mac, which causes us to set an ARP request while we hold a bridge lock, which causes us to acquire the bridge lock again. Trying to acquire a mutex you already have is bad. Bad things happen, and then, panic. This particular bit of the commit message is not actually true right now because we still have the bridge mutex. We've got this other one, which has been reviewed by 3 people and has found to be good and which works in a number of different locations. So we're going to commit our bridge patch. Actually, FreeBSD Foundation might have, if it decides to load, there we go. The FreeBSD Foundation had someone write about this bridge performance improvement thing. Yeah, we listed it as 500%. Some people have rightfully pointed out that actually we've gone times 5.75, so it's not a 500% improvement, it's a 475% improvement in one particular test setup. Olivier very kindly did some more tests and discovered that, depending on the scenario, you can have a factor of 13 improvement, which, to be fair, is not really because of anything I did, just because the particular test he did, the performance was really bad, and now it's not bad. The top end of his benchmark looks a lot like the top end of mine. So now that we've got this, and you should totally read this news post, I'm not going to read it out here, but it's great writing by the Foundation's tame writer. We've got this, we've got our test plan, we've seen our, this is in my tests, it's from 3.7 to 18.6 million packets per second. I think Olivier managed to get it up to 22 million packets a second or something. Olivier's better at this performance thing than I am. But it's it's faster, and I think we all like faster. This has been on the review since April 1st, so nearly 4 weeks. It's about time to commit this, and we're going to do that now, and we're going to celebrate this. That's why I have this particular beer. Tasty, tasty. So we'll take the diff that got reviewed. Yes, Hassan, this was me. I am not responsible for all of Epoch, just one particular application to the bridge, with, I feel, moderate success here. This project, in case you all missed it in the commit message, and because the Foundation was writing about it, this was generously sponsored by the FreeBSD Foundation. So I'm very grateful to them for this. D24, this one. So generously sponsored by the Foundation. You should all be very grateful to the Foundation. If this work helps you, you should give the Foundation some money. They do interesting things with that money. They sponsor conferences, they advertise, they pay for some of the permanent staff in the Foundation who also do great work, and they pay for the occasional project like this one. So we can commit this. Yep, there we go. What does this need? So, I think we might want to reread this commit message, make sure that we're not forgetting anything terribly important. Run the bridge data path under epoch rather than under the bridge lock. We still take the bridge lock whenever we insert or delete items in the relevant lists, but we use epoch callbacks to free items so that it's safe to iterate the lists without the bridge lock. Tested on Meerkat 5 and 6 test cluster machines. Show this significantly increases bridge throughput significantly from 3.6 to 18.6 million packets per second. Sponsored by the FreeBSD Foundation. Well, let's put this here. Let's attach our differential reviewed by these three people. MFC after. Considering that I have a patch, we might as well. Okay, that gets to go away. We've got all of that. Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense, I think. Yep, there we go. Commit. And now we wait for the sounds of distant explosions. People have been running this. They have been running this on 12, and it seems to mostly work. There we go. And I get to check an item off my to-do list, which is always nice. And while we're at it, we should commit this test as well. So this test, oh yeah, we went through what this test does, so we might as well commit this too. I know, this is just commits, this is not the most interesting thing there can be, but hey, bridge performance improvement, celebrate, report bugs. Well, you know, if you test this out and you discover bugs, it would be good to report this. So how do I generally choose the MFC interval? That's a good question. Mostly it's gut feeling. Trivial changes, I will set an MFC I default to a week. The minimum specified by our policy is 2 or 3 days, I forget which one. And I only use the minimum for security related issues. So that's relatively rare. I tend to default to a week, but if it's a more invasive change, like say, you change bridge locking, I tend to go for something longer. I believe 2 weeks means that we can get this into the next 12 release. Let me. So that would be 12.2, and I don't remember offhand when. No, I thought I had it in my mailbox somewhere that we had a date for when we plan to do 12.2, but I don't see an obvious email for that one. Anyway, so we had one more. Yeah, we had one more test case here, which we should commit because this fixes an actual bug. Valid question there. Don't security updates get handled by SO, so they get committed directly to release and stable branches? They get committed to release branches by the security officer, yes. But not all security bugs necessarily get passed through SO. Sometimes they are obvious, they get committed to head, and then we don't always follow the full flow that way. So usually yes, but not always. I don't think that was a particularly helpful answer, but it's really the best one I've got. I've had security bugs where, well, frankly, 2 months, where things took a little longer than we hoped that they would take. And if I spell Philip's name correctly, there we go. Yeah, there's discussion of this in the committer's guide as well. I occasionally go looking for policies in the committer's guide because I know that there's a minimum timeout for an MFC, and I'm pretty sure that it's 2 or 3 days, and I always forget which one it is. So I will occasionally go and spelunk in the committer's guide to try to find these things, and then just completely fail to find them. That's very much my fault and not the fault of any documentation people who might be listening to this right now. Okay, excellent. So that's a nice couple of commits. And I think that will probably, yep. Okay, yeah, there's some more email I get to mark as read. So that's all very useful. Yes, if you're interested in getting a commit bit, reading the committer's guide is a good idea, and I'm pretty sure I did actually read it way back when I was a young committer and just did things. Okay, right. I got email, but that's not terribly. Oh, actually, yes. We could look at this bug for a second. Oh yes, that was our dashboard. This is still waiting for review. Actually, I think while we're committing things, we're going to commit this one as well, just to be done with it. The email I got was a bug that got updated. Panic while adding an e-pair to bridge. So this one is open and is going to remain open until we MFC this. But it's a relatively old bug, 2017, and it is now fixed. Oh, and it wound up assigned to me as well. So, yay, one less bug I need to worry about. So this is a virtualization of one particular lock that we had. Nobody was interested, but this review has been open for a week since last week, so we're just going to commit this. I'm pretty sure it works. Well, I'm extremely certain because we tested this. We tested this last week. We ran it through the relevant test cases. We're not going to MFC this. So the decision about whether or not we MFC something is also bug fixes. Usually yes, new drivers, maybe new features, usually no. So this one is potentially useful in 12, but honestly it's not that relevant, not particularly relevant. And it's not particularly likely to cause merge conflicts either, so we're just not going to merge this one. There we go. That's some more commits done today. I think we've been very productive today, or have at least emulated productivity rather well. Okay. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 commits just now in half an hour. That's pretty good. Should we try to do something more productive? Or should we just enjoy beer for the rest of the evening? I think I'm going to try something vaguely productive. I had a to-do item. Oh yes, let's grab this link. This is an interesting case, and I don't think I'm going to end up with a fix for this, or a feature, or however you want to call it, but I want to experiment a little, so expect explosions here. Oh yes, and especially if we do both, if we keep drinking and try to hack on things, there will definitely be explosions. So what is this about? VNet operations. So we've got VNet jails. They have their own IP stack. One of the fun things about jails is that you can touch them from outside and you can't really tell what's going on inside the jail when the administrator does things from outside your jail. So one of the things that we would like to do is be able to do things like change IP addresses for a particular jail. One of the ways this was proposed is in this review by who submitted this? Cactus. Oh yes, he's been doing a lot. I think he's been doing a lot of sysctl cleanups for locking and things like that. So it's another one of those people who's not afraid of touching dangerous bits of code. So what does this do? It takes, and that's also what the argument was about, is we use, where is it, jail attach to move our process from the host into jail and then do whatever changes we need to do. And there was criticism on this approach because oh yes, there we go. Jail attach interface is fundamentally unsuited. The problem is that the process appears in the jail. Because essentially what it does is it moves the process into the jail, and that means that if somebody has root in the jail, and what's the point of having a jail if you can't give your jail users root in jail, they can attach to the process. And if you can attach with ptrace, you have debug control over the process, you can inject code, you can halt the process, you can make it do things that it's not supposed to be doing. And if you have then also left file descriptors open in that were used outside the jail, this is a security issue. It could potentially, fairly unlikely, but it could potentially be abused to do jail escapes. This one is not going to get through review with the jail attach. So what I would like to do is what was suggested here by Jamie. Jamie is Mr. Jail. Is move the interface to and from the jail in question with the ifconfig VNet. No, that's not actually going to work. If we move interfaces from the jail into the host or from the host into the jail, all of the IP configuration and route configuration set on it disappears. We detach the interface, we flush the addresses set on it, we reattach the interface. That's not the way to do it. Also, you would drop traffic if you did this, you could lose routes. It's not the way that we would want to be doing this. I think, yes, the direction I wanted to go, well, yeah, I know. Yes, okay, chat raises a valid point. If Jamie is Mr. Jail, then who is PHK? So Paul Henning, who actually initially implemented the jails. I think I'm just going to call Paul Henning the mother of jails and Jamie the father of jails. Can we live with that? Paul Henning is not listening, but we're just going to keep it that way. Jamie is, I think, the closest thing we have to a current maintainer for the jail systems, so he's going to remain Mr. Jail for me. I think what we're going to try to do is, Alan's suggestion is we're going to set the VNet pointer. These are kernel-side macros. So these are relevant. Powell apparently stopped touching this a while ago. So when we do this, let's go look at some code. And there we go. We've got, where does this live? Nets if.c. We've got an ioctl handler. This is the hardware ioctl handler. How does all of this hardware ioctl handler? Do we have any more ioctl handlers in here? There we go, interface ioctl. There we go. This essentially shows what I was looking for. So this is the, well, relatively close to the entry point in the kernel. So where do we call if ioctl from? From kernel syssocket. Oh, and some of them get intercepted earlier. There we go. So this is the SOO ioctl, and this is a file operation for a particular socket. Surely this gets used somewhere. Socket opts gets registered when we create a socket pair, probably in other places as well. Yes. There we go. If we create a socket, we associate file operations with it. So that means we do, we create a socket, and that gives us a file descriptor. And on this file descriptor, we can read, we can write, we can truncate, we can ioctl. And this ioctl eventually calls into if ioctl. Huh. Which, oh yes, and then if ioctl is here, and then there are, any number of different cases that we can have. We can destroy interfaces, we can clone them, we can call the hardware ioctls. I would think that this would also eventually end up doing things like setting IP addresses on these interfaces. Let's have a quick interlude. What calls do we call when we do, say, epair 0a up? We set flags on the interface. So this is a socket we create, we set flags on it. We set flags on it, we set flags, we get flags, we set flags, and that's what we do there. So what happens if we set 1.2.3.4/24? We delete an address, and then we add an address. Where does this happen? Where is this symbol used? Somewhere in the kernel the symbol must be used. Okay. In quite a lot of places in the kernel. ION control. Where do we call ION control? We call ION control on a raw IP socket, or when we purge addresses, or when we scrub addresses. So I think this is likely the one. Is it now? Or is that only one of the possible interfaces? UDP user request TCP. Yes, if we we need to create a TCP socket to do this rather than a socket, I think. But I suspect that actually, well, the thing that I was trying to get to is we hit up this. Actually, we called it from here. Oh, from PRU control. When do we call PRU control? PRU control. In IF. There we go. Oh, there we go. Excellent. And this, right? Okay. So we call this from IF ioctl. That's essentially what I wanted to establish, because what I wanted to get to is essentially this line. We set the VNET based on the VNET that's set on the socket. So it doesn't actually matter what VNET context we're running in. We can set that context on the, or that context is set on the socket, and that is the one we apply. If we somehow got this file descriptor, this open socket, into a different jail, which is not something that we can do, I believe, but if we did that, we could all of a sudden start to influence interfaces in different jails. So what I'm proposing to do experimentally is allow user space to change this SO VNet pointer. So we've opened the socket, and can we go back to socket? Because I think that when we open the socket somewhere, there we go, where we set the socket opts, which is going to be not in socket pair, in current socket. There we go. So in current socket, we have an SO, and then we SO create. That's where we create the socket, SO create. We allocate a socket, and then we set credentials to VNet. So when we allocate the socket, we say what VNet it lives in. So we initialize mutexes, we do all sorts of things, and we set a socket count in that VNet. That's a thing that we should try to remember. Because what I'm proposing, what I would like to try to do, is make it so that we can move this socket to a different VNet. And then all of a sudden, the socket that we use, and then all of a sudden we can use that socket to do things like enumerate the interfaces that live in that particular VNet. There we go. This is where we actually set the VNet. I'm going to completely ignore locking and cleanup for the moment. I would very much like a proof of concept first. So I would like to be able to find that VNet. So what we want to do is we want to add a case. SIOC set VNet, for example. Okay, so here are the operations that we can do on sockets. Move IF jail, reclaim VNet IF. Oh, okay, so that's when we reclaim an interface. So I think this is... And I've already changed my mind about what the name of this ioctl needs to be. Let's try this. SIOC, right, we've got an extra S there. And that becomes an IO, I don't know, a write operation. And we should find a free number, 155, for example. Let's not worry about the overly long line for the moment. Let's see if we do... Well, actually, we can go look how that works. Source sys, not sys, has been ifconfig, and then something in there is going to use SIOC SIF VNet. SIOC SIF VNet, right? There we go. So this is where ifconfig can move an interface to a different VNet. What do we do? Oh, that's relatively straightforward then. We set the interface name and we set the jail ID. So the only thing that we want to look at is IFR JID. So in here we want to take, let's not worry about that for now. We should have, right, a struct if rec. which is struct if_rec from data, right? Yes, data is the address that we get. And then we should have a jail ID of IFRQ, IFRJID. And then we should go, there we go. Okay, and there are privileges to do this. That's good to know. What did I say? CS set VNET. So we should probably check the privilege on this thing. And it's a set, yeah. Move an interface to a VNET. This is arguably the wrong privilege, but we'll just abuse this one for now, and then we if vmove loan, where no doubt there we go, we go and find the prison. Okay. And we'll do the privilege check first, and we'll struct prison PR. Because then we go and try to find the jail using IFRQ, IFRJID, and if not, if PR null, except we probably don't want to return errors, we just want to break, and that means we want to say or possibly out no ref. Yes. Okay. We want the we don't want to break. We want to out no. We want to go to out no ref. Okay. I think that looks about reasonable. And then we've got the prison. Then what we want to do is we want to say SO VNET equals PR, and then we need to go look at what the prison structure looks like, because oh well, that's PR VNET. And so now we've essentially allowed any socket with appropriate privileges, except that, well, these are not the appropriate privileges, but let's just pretend that they are, should allow us to change its VNET. Yes, this might actually work. Okay. Of course, this is, well, I say this might actually work. This has a couple of issues. Not least of which that we're not reference counting this socket appropriately in the jail. So what might happen here, we're not going to fix this bug today because I need some quiet alone time to concentrate on this when I'm not talking to myself and not, drinking. But I'm going to need some time to deal with reference counting and making sure that we can't actually delete the jail while this socket is still open. Because if the jail goes away while the socket is open, the VNET will go away, and if the VNET goes away, it'll get cleaned up, and then we've got a dangling pointer, and then we dereference it, and then all sorts of bad things happen, and then people shout at me because there's a bug. So this right now, so let's just leave an XXX to do for ourselves in here, and I don't think you want to know how many XXX to-dos there are all over the kernel, so let's not go and look at that, shall we? Right, this theoretically should start to work. What else do we need? We need to be able, well, we need an implementation in user space for this. We're not going to write all of, well, what we're going to do, I'm going to run a quick build kernel for this. Actually, we're going to build world and build kernel because we'll want to update our headers. And what we're going to do is go look at libifconfig, and a certain someone who I think is not watching this stream really should get back to working on libifconfig. Anyone who wants to work on libifconfig should do it because it's a good idea and we need it. Someone should continue work on this. What is libifconfig, I don't hear you ask? It's intended to be a library that implements a whole bunch of things that ifconfig does. You know, list the interfaces, give me the state of an interface, add an IP address to an interface, remove an IP address, get the MAC address of an interface, all of those things in library form. Because right now, if you have, say that you're building an appliance on top of FreeBSD, and you build a web interface, you build a control daemon, and it needs to do all of the typical things like, we want to be able to set an IP address from this. We want to be able to list the interfaces that we've got. Right now, there are two options for how you implement this. You can fork off the ifconfig process and parse its output, which is horrific. Or you can go look at what ifconfig does and run all of those IOCLs yourself, which is better but a lot of work. What we want to be able to do is, well, essentially what libifconfig does is present a bunch of reasonably easy to use, and this is actually fairly easy. So say you want to set an MTU, you need an ifconfig handle, you specify the name of the interface and you set the MTU. Do we have an implementation for this? Well, so what do? We copy in the name. Essentially what it does is it just wraps the IOCL for you in a nice little function. It makes life so much easier. Oh, and it's got nice little for eaches. Oh, with callback functions. Oh, wow, there's a lot more code here than I thought there was. That's very nice. Ooh, we can create interfaces, we can create VLANs, we can destroy interfaces. That's quite nice. That's quite nifty. So we've got an open, we've got a close. What I would like to do is int ifconfig set VNET. So the question from chat is it already used by ifconfig? Unfortunately, no, not yet. I think that's one of the next steps that would be very useful is to make ifconfig start to actually use this library. The problem with that is that ifconfig is quite a lot of code and all of it contains tentacles. It's not the easiest bit of code to handle. So let's propose an interface that does ifconfig set VNET. We'll pop it in maybe here, somewhere, wherever. We'll worry about where it needs to live once we, once we do some more. Once we've got something a little more robust, setMTU was a good example because it also contained a struct ifrec ifr. Zero out the structure, ifr.ifr, JID is JID. So that should be the function. That's building. So the next step is we want to write a quick little application that uses this. So what do we want to do? Let's grab a new terminal, FreeBSD current source. Where are we going to put this actually? Let's just create a directory here. How does this work again? Let's just cheat. User source has been pfcutl makefile, because I honestly can never remember how any of this works. Well, let me rephrase that. I have very successfully managed to not learn how our build system works. And that is remarkably useful in this case. I'm not entirely sure this will work because I think that libifconfig is now a private library, and this might not work. Okay, oh wow, okay. Source.ops, yeah, but we don't need this one because we're not actually a source project right now. Okay, there we go. So it has not actually linked in libifconfig. Okay, fine, whatever. Couple of questions. Have I looked at meta mode? I have actually looked at meta mode. I have actually, I think we can. There was source env.conf. There we go. Meta mode is on. I did add the no silent equals yes because I want to see what the build system is doing, and because I will occasionally, when I'm debugging something, is take this command line and execute it manually. So I want to see this output. But meta mode is enabled, so it should be doing things. It's probably rebuilding a lot because I changed the header file. So that was one question. Another question: which build system? I actually don't know if you've got multiple different build systems. I treasure my ignorance on the subject. And then there's a proposal to rewrite ifconfig as a new utility like ifctl. Well, we could call it IP, and then we could be Linux. Oh, is the output in the meta files? It could be, but I want to see compiler output scroll by, because that just that just feels like I'm doing something when I'm watching the compiler output scroll by. So something broke, something didn't compile, something somewhere. Oh, there we go. Right, I'm missing things. I think I possibly know what this is. That's if.c. This wants to be. This wants to be this. Well, we'll argue style afterwards. So if we want to. Right, yes. So if we say we want to keep the ifconfig syntax but new code, then we don't need to rename the utility. We're just going to change ifconfig code gradually. There's too much in there. It just needs slow and steady progress. If anyone feels so inclined, one of the useful things that people could do is write tests for basic ifconfig functionality. Verifying that its output matches the format that we expect, that parser code will still work with it, that it can enumerate interfaces, that it can set IP addresses, all sorts of things like that. Those would be useful tests because that would make life much easier for someone who wants to go and rewrite bits of ifconfig. So what we want to do now is build, but only the kernel because world was already built. This doesn't work because it uses libifconfig, so I think we're going to have to stick this in the source tree somewhere. Let's just put this in user source has been, because, you know, why not? This is all still very, 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 very very quick and dirty code, but we're just attempting to prove a concept right here. So, a question from chat: can we get Clang format on our source code to respect style? I believe the answer right now is no, we can't. Our style is fairly complicated and fairly all over the map, and it's honestly got a couple of things in it that I really don't like. But it's coding style. There's always something I don't like. So someone, and I'm drawing a complete blank on who it was, but someone spent some time on it. There is a Clang format configuration file somewhere that gets really, really close to style, but doesn't quite fully match it yet. Not all of our tree is fully style compliant either. One of the things I should do is teach my Vim to be a little bit more style compliant than it is, because it occasionally does things that are not actually correct. Okay, install everything, and that might actually break now. Oh well, there we go. It's in source. Oh, there we go. .clang format. So that's the configuration. I've not actually tried to use this yet. That might be interesting to play with one of these days. Oh, and it probably wants to be taught about CK macros as well, but some other day. Has been ifconfig VNET, right? Oh, would you look at? Oh, this is excellent. Now it's linked in libifconfig, and now it's annoyed because there's no man page. There's never ever going to be a man page for this particular utility. That's all fine. Test.c, we want to include, and what's the name of the header? The name of the header is libifconfig.h. Does this compile? This no longer compile. Oh, would you look at that? Ah, okay, that's kind of interesting. The libifconfig.h header is not fully self-contained. It expects some types to be included that we're not including here, and I think that I consider that to be a bug. By and large, yeah, so we've made, that's progress. We're going to need netif.h as well. I consider it a bug when I include a header and it depends on other headers that it does not include. There. Oh, wow. Right, our install has failed. Our install probably failed because some idiots went and that's wrong. Has been make file. Yeah. Whatever. I went and added this, and it didn't get compiled yet, and blah blah blah. Well, just dump them. So there is a style tool in user source tools editing FreeBSD.vim, and I do believe there we go. I do actually load it when it exists on my system. So that gets me close, but it's still not quite perfect. There might be conflicting configuration in my vimrc. So you know, any decade now, I'm going to look at that and actually make it do something. So what we want to do here is we want to open a handle. H equals this. There we go. Then we open a handle, and then we can that builds at least. That's excellent. And then what we can do is, yep. So we've got a handle, and we can set jail ID, and we're just going to hardcode a jail ID here, and we're not actually going to use it just yet, because I want to do something like, there we go. ifconfig for each iface. So for every interface, well, I want to do this here. For every interface that we can see, we're going to call this callback. And then we're going to run it again, and then we need to implement this function, of course. And what does this prototype look like? Oh, there we go. There's the type def. So we've got a void function which we'll call for each if, and then we get an if adders and all of this. And the only thing I want to do, are we sure? For each func, yeah, so we should have a struct if adders ifa. I want to know what's in that struct. There we go. And that struct contains an IFA name. That's essentially all I want to do. So what this should do, well, you know, if we could get it to compile, incomplete definition of struct if adders. What file did we have? We had ifadders.h. And that still doesn't compile unused parameter h. No previous prototype. We don't actually need a previous prototype for this if we make it static. And then we've got this one, which, that's weird because I thought that we had that interface in our header and in our implementation. Okay, if we now run test, we get nothing but hello. That's weird. There we go. That's the reason. I'm just looking at the wrong object files because those got generated here, and then we abort. Oh yes. Because I was checking that the argument was not null, and I always gave it a null argument. So, you know, clearly that doesn't work. There we go. So we have successfully paused this code to enumerate the interfaces that we've got. So that much is good. and that then returns 0. That's good as well. And then we call it again because, obviously the intention was that we would change our VNET, but that doesn't work because presumably the header that we're including, implicitly I would assume from libifconfig, doesn't yet include the ifconfig set VNET function. Okay, so we can make. What happens if we install and make again and still not installed? Why is this not getting installed? I would expect these headers to get installed. Why is it not installing these headers? They're private headers, but still that should be getting installed. I'm sure I'm missing something. I just can't quite think what it is. I'm likely not going to be able to finish this during this stream because I've ordered Thai food and I can go pick it up in 15 minutes. And, as much as I like you, I like Thai food more. So I'll be ending the stream in a little bit, but in the meantime, let's try if we can't figure out why these headers don't get installed. Yeah. There's a build. Is there a target to install headers? Contains targets and no. Why are we not installing those headers? We may need. I think my build world was already running then. What happens if we just cheat on the headers? Will this link? It does link. Okay. Now, obviously, this is going to fail. There we go. And that failed to set the VNET because that jail doesn't exist. But if we create a jail and we persist VNET it should have jail ID 1, so this might now actually work. Except it didn't. Okay. Oh, I might not have the privileges to do this. Nope, still not. So what happens? We set VNET and it says error number 6, device not configured. Oh, yes. Well, yes, obviously. Can chat spot the bug? It's not so much bug, it's that kernel changes work better if you are running the kernel that you changed. So let's run a quick reboot and then see what happens here. I'm guessing it might panic. Maybe. We'll see. We've installed our kernel, so we'll reboot into the new kernel and we'll see what that does. Let's let that boot. Well, I need to drink more of this beer. I have a bunch of them left over and they are extremely tasty. Yeah, so yes, chat is in full agreement that actually running the kernel with the changes might make it, slightly more likely to actually work. Okay, what command did we execute? We executed this. So what happens now if we run it? Now we get an operation not permitted, so this makes a lot more sense. And whoops. Yeah, so, oh, wow. Oh, okay. So I've missed a lock. That's kind of annoying. So apparently when we want to run over the jails, we need to hold the appropriate lock for that. That's slightly annoying. While this reboots, I'm going to run away really quickly I need to go to the bathroom, and if I take the microphone with me, you're going to hear things that you don't want to hear. I will be back in 30 seconds. Right, apologies. I hope you didn't hear it, despite auto gain. So, what do we remember? Oh yes, we failed to take a lock. User sources, vnet-if.c. And here, apparently the problem is that when we prison find child, we assert that we hold the prison lock. And I failed to hold that lock. So, tra-la-la, la-la-la, where do we call this function? Prison find child, let's do this, no. Prison find child, I thought this was, oh, well, let's take a look, there we go. So what we want to do is this. Prison, we take the lock and we want to release it afterwards. There we go. And actually, apparently we are allowed to release it immediately afterwards. Is there a reference count on, or yes, okay, yes, that makes sense. I've already leaked references to the prison when we do this, so this is definitely going to need some more thinking about. But I did say that we weren't going to bother about locking or reference counting or anything for this particular iteration. I really just want to confirm that this is possible and this will do something. And that would be a good note to end on if I can get it to work. There we go. We can install kernel and then reboot. Any decade now, what I should do is set up a virtual machine that net boots, and then I can edit and build outside of the VM and net boot that kernel. That might actually, work slightly better, but it's more setup than I can be bothered to do right now. Okay, that's more reviews that I don't need to look at anymore. That's all good, all good, all good. And then with any amount of luck, this will actually work, because in about 5 minutes I have to go pick up my dinner. So it would be really nice if this actually worked. Okay, so let's try running this again. So what we should get here is a permission problem. And what do we see when we set VNET? It returns not permitted. Now it returns no such file or directory, so eno-end, that is correct. I mean, that's exactly what we wanted to see. Jexec iron2 ifconfig. So what we should see now, drumroll, anticipation, is another panic. Well, we recursed on a non-recursive jail mutex. How did that work? Not quite sure what I did wrong now, but clearly the locking is still broken. This is annoying. I'm sure that I'm 10 minutes away from a functional prototype, but I'm 9 minutes away from dinner. So that's those numbers don't add up. But well, maybe we can continue playing with this next week. So what? Oh yes, maybe. Nope. Clear. Nope. 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 What I wanted to show was what I did. So one of the useful things that our kernel does when it panics is it shows you why it panicked. So we recursed on a non-recursive mutex jail mutex, and it even tells us where this happens. And then it gives me the opportunity to take a dump, which is a crash dump, which will tell us where things broke. So we can kgdb, but we give it the kernel, we give it the last core dump, and that is the panic message we got. And now we have a post-mortem debugger of where things went wrong. And they went wrong in a mutex assert when we tried to take the prison, the lock for that particular jail. So I think what that means is that where I took the lock, I forgot to release it. Prison check, although we've unlocked here, why did this go wrong? Oh, because before you free it, you need to manually unlock it. That's kind of a strange API. And yes, you do need witness. Actually, I don't know if you need witness. I think witness is about lock order rather than taking a lock when you've already got it. That might be an invariant. But I do build my kernels with all of these things enabled because it finds so many bugs. What we're going to do now is just not take any locks. But the problem with that is if we do that, we might... No. Okay, so what I thought to do was to, okay, let's just not release any locks, let's not free the prison, let's just leak resources, which, obviously is a bug, but doesn't matter for the proof of concept. But I think that if we exit the syscall with this lock held, it might panic as well. So instead we'll unlock and then free and see if that helps. What I should be doing is, spending an hour or two reading jail code and properly internalizing the locking priorities for that code, but I can't be bothered. This is the last test I'm going to do now, because then I need to go find socks and dinner. Either way, thank you all for coming. What you should do is you should encourage Tom Jones to do more streams. His stream today about hardware hacking was very educational and very amusing. It's also, I prefer watching a stream over hosting a stream. Because I can do more drinking while I'm watching than when I'm hosting. Or something like that, anyway. Let's see. I'd really, really, really like this proof of concept thing to work. So Tom is also on Twitch. I think he was THJ or TJ Hacking. Thank you very much. That is exactly the link I was looking for. So there should be a stream dump from what he did. And oh wow, Tom spent more time and effort on his streams than I did. You should totally watch it. It's I listened in for most of it, and it's quite good. So let's create the jail, and let's run this command again and see what it does this time. Okay. Okay, that's weird. For some reason, the jail I have now has jail ID 2, and my code is hard-coded for jail ID 1, so let's just quickly recompile it and see if we get something now. And it still says device not configured. And my jail has gone away. That is... huh. I think I shouldn't breed at jail. I think that's wrong. But I need to go pick up my food. My alarm just went off, so I'm terribly sorry to end on a on something that doesn't actually have an ending. We'll continue to play with this next week. But I urgently need to run because, given the choice between you and dinner, I'm afraid that dinner is going to win. Thank you all very much for being here. I'll try to do another one next week. I'll promise it now because then I'll feel obligated to do it. So thank you very much for being here, and we'll continue playing with this next week.